Welcome to Extracurricular. I'm your co-host, Eddie Geller.
And I am your other co-host, Stephanie Vanos. I am also a school board member for Orange County Public Schools, District 6, but here I am unofficially, as I always am.
Oh, that was beautiful. I think you're better at changing your cadence than I am. I feel like I'm locked into my ups, my downs, and my all-arounds. And you're just freewheeling. You just do whatever.
You know what I think it is?
What?
I think we're recording early in the morning, and I am a morning person, 110%. And so I'm like, this is my time. Let's go. Let's get it done. Let's take on the day. Let's have lots of pep and energy. And you're like, can I have another coffee, please? Why should I be forced to function at this time?
If people knew what actual time that we're recording at, people would be aghast. Thank you for listening to our little podcast called Extracurricular. We like it a lot. It used to be called TBD, but now it's called Extracurricular. And you should subscribe if you do not subscribe already. Check us out on Instagram, extracurricular_podcast, and rating us. Steph, what is the optimal rating for this podcast?
5 stars only.
5 stars only. Steph, we had our first candidate of the 2026 election season on today. Wasn't that exciting?
Oh, it was really exciting.
Who did we have on?
We talked to Representative Angie Nixon. She currently represents Florida's 13th district in the Florida House, and she is running for Senate.
And 13th
U.S. Senate, sorry.
U.S. Senate, 13th district, that is Jacksonville area, right?
Yep.
I do not live in Jacksonville, so I'm not as familiar. Should we move to Jacksonville?
Under question. I will say they do have a great race, the Gate River Run. Nice 15K. 15Ks, you don't see a lot of them, but man, they have a great one, and it is a great, organized, well-run race. It does end on a steep incline on a bridge, which is not ideal, but you run down that Green Monster, and you're like, I did it.
Green Monster, that's also the Fenway Park, right?
I think that's the name of the bridge.
Okay, so are we doing it? Are we moving to Jacksonville? It might be tough to serve on the Orange County School Board.
I'm going to vote no, but we could do the race.
Okay. All right, well, you could do the race, and I will cheer you on.
No, but truly, it was a great conversation with Rep. Nixon. I met her during my just volunteer advocacy days, and she was always someone who always made time to meet, always had time to listen to what we had to say. Invited us to participate in webinars she was doing that had to do with education, was just so open and accessible, and like wasn't just checking a box, took in information and used it and made people feel like they had a part to play and that we're all in this together. And it's something, it's hard to describe, but it's something I really appreciate about her.
I love that she came off as so passionate, really just cares about representing both her constituents and as she's running for the entire state of Florida in the United States Senate, and really just had that passion for what she's doing and what she's running for. So it was great talking to her. She did mention she has 5 kids. Do you feel like you got 1-upped, or for that matter, 2-upped, because she has 2 more children than you do?
I mean, maybe a little, but it was really cute because actually one of her daughters came in during the conversation and was kind of like pulling at her, shirt, because I guess the TV wasn't working or something. And I get it. It's that you're like, okay, mommy needs like 40 minutes to talk. You need to be quiet. You can watch your show. And it was just a reminder, and just sort of refreshing, honestly. Just like normal everyday people running for office is also something I really love to see. People who have like experienced what it's like to, and she mentions it, just some of the experiences that she's had that I think, that people in our society and just people in our country can really relate to. And I think that really speaks to like the power of her representation in Tallahassee and, possibly in Washington, D.C.
I loved it. And for folks who don't know, there's currently a Democratic primary right now. Her main opponent, I would say, I don't know how many people have thrown their hat in the race, but is Colonel Alex Vindman, who announced a couple of months ago. And maybe at some point we will have Colonel Vindman on the podcast. But for right now, very grateful to have Rep. Nixon and excited about her candidacy. and folks should definitely listen to the interview, listen to what she has to say when you're deciding, whom you're going to vote for, and check out her stuff, because I think she was very thoughtful, very passionate, and was grateful to have her on the pod.
Agree.
Okay. I do want to bring up one piece of news, not the Iran war, not Pam Bodney's firing, though both incredibly important things. Something a little bit closer to our world / your world. Do you want to talk about what the Attorney General of Florida is up to these days?
Attorney General Uthmeier has stated that Florida will not be enforcing a plank of its constitution that bars public funds from going to religious institutions. So essentially, what he's saying is that Florida should ignore its constitution and, by the way, some of its statutory provisions, and should be able to use its public funds to pay for charter religious schools.
Rules for thee, not for me, is essentially how it goes from the DeSantis administration.
So I have so many questions. I mean, the first one being, how is this constitutional?
Well, they literally said they're ignoring the Constitution. So,
and second, interesting that, just as you said, someone can state that explicitly that he will not be following the Florida Constitution, will not be following Florida law, will not be enforcing those provisions. And interestingly, he has not been removed from office.
That's wild.
Whereas in the past, people who haven't even explicitly said that, but it has been interpreted by our governor that they have said those types of words were removed. I'm thinking of Andrew Warren, thinking of Monique Worrell. And I'm wondering, wow, this doesn't seem like it is consistent and it seems somewhat hypocritical. It
does seem like that. I mean, I think we're being a little tongue-in-cheek in our presentation. It's hard to not have steam coming out, and I say this for both of us and anyone who's listening, steam coming out of both of our ears, because it's so enraging, this sort of behavior. And because we've talked about it many times, you live under this threat of being removed for, so many of the things you do. And here they come out and just say, we're not going to follow the Constitution to do as they please. And if we weren't recording in the morning, I would be even more angry and more animated. But I'm going to need a little more caffeine to get there. But I am there in my head, even if you don't hear it in my voice.
Well, I am there, and I am so there. The steam is like coming out of my ears, and
we're gonna have to replace the headphones.
Maybe my eyes. I don't know. So I just want to read again a video that was posted on X, and exactly what Uthmeier said. He said, quote, "Unfortunately, some Florida laws prohibit religious schools from accessing public funds. That's why during this Holy Week, I issued a formal legal opinion concluding those laws are unconstitutional and my office will not enforce them." Oh, how nice that you can just decide that some of the laws are unconstitutional and you're just going to decide not to enforce them. I mean, this is, that's why during this Holy Week, I mean, the statement doesn't even make sense, but I've tried to stop. Like, there's obviously just such a huge lack of competency and consistency in this administration that I've stopped trying to make sense of it all, because there is no making sense of it.
During Passover of all weeks.
That's what he meant by Holy Week. Okay.
He is up for election, folks. Just so people know, like it is not fait accompli that he is elected, and folks should check out
Jose Javier Rodriguez. And I just want to say, I know that it might seem like voting for Attorney General, like no one even really knows what this person does, and you might think it's not that important, and, lawyers are lawyers. This race is so important. Mm-hmm. Please pay attention to this race. If you can donate to Jose, please do that. And like I said, it's...
Get involved, folks.
Get involved.
We just saw we didn't talk about it on the pod last week, but we just saw 2 special election victories by Democrats who flipped seats. I'm not saying anything is going to be a cakewalk this election season. Certainly not, definitely not here in Florida. But I do think anything is possible. And I think being engaged and being willing to, as folks running for office say, your time, your treasure, what's the third one? Talent. Being able to give away any of those things for candidates or campaigns that you're passionate about is really important. So yeah, just thought it's worth mentioning that. Okay, in less upsetting news, we finally finished Heated Rivalry.
Well, it is a little upsetting that we finished it.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's only 6 episodes. It feels like it should be more. How do you feel having finished it maybe 3 or 4 months after this was a sensation across the United States and Canada?
Well, first of all, I appreciate that we don't just jump on any trend. Like, we're going to determine whether it's really worth our time to watch it. So you say 3 or 4 months late. I say, yeah, we're going to evaluate whether it's deserving of our evening time.
Well, we're discerning.
Exactly. No, I really enjoyed it. It actually wasn't a lot of hockey. I don't know. Were you disappointed about that?
No. I was not necessarily expecting a lot of hockey. And there's another show I really enjoy, which is very hockey forward for folks who know Shoresy, which is a show you and I want to watch with you. So I get plenty of hockey in Shoresy. The hockey and Heated Rivalry, not maybe the best, but I don't think people are watching Heated Rivalry for the hockey. But no, I really enjoyed it. Was I scandalized at moments? Maybe, I don't know, but it was fun. And folks might call it hot. I don't know. I feel like in real time, I'm struggling in how I want to describe it, but I love the show. I'm still thinking about it. It was great.
It was spicy, and fun.
Spicy.
And I think at one point it did kind of zag a little bit, and I wasn't sure what was happening with that zag, but then they kind of brought it back and I understood, and then it all kind of made sense. I thought it was just well done on so many levels.
Do you want to start reading more hockey romance novels? Because I think these are part of a book series called Game Changers. I think there's actually a lot of other steamy hockey romances. Is this a genre you want to get into?
I might have to explore it. I don't know. But wait, at one of the salutes, wasn't one of the people who spoke writing a book about hockey?
Oh, well, that was, are you talking about Dave Mishkin or someone else?
That's right. It was him. Yeah. I don't think it's the same type of hockey book, but it does involve a character that plays hockey. So I just want to,
Is Game Changers available in OCPS's library? If it was, that could be a book that I could see being challenged. I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but.
Well, I don't put it past anyone to challenge any book these days. They'll find something wrong with every book. So honestly, for me, let's just get the kids reading.
Let's just get it reading, even if it's Heated Rivalry. 2 thumbs up from us. Very good. We enjoyed. What are we going to watch next?
That's a great question. I don't think we've decided that.
We have a few shows that we're still, we like to start a show and then venture off into another show and then to another show. So,
well, you've been pretty high on Andor.
Oh yeah. Well, for folks who know Andor, the Star Wars show, I've been holding on to the second season. I haven't watched it yet because I want to watch it with you. First season was incredible. I'm so excited to watch the second season. So we're going to watch probably a few episodes. You'll see if you're into it. People are like, why are they still talking about random TV shows? We just want to listen to this interview with Angie Nixon, and we're going to get to it in a moment. But it's important that you know about our TV watching habits.
I don't know. I kind of think I want to hear the interview with Angie Nixon. So,
all right. With that said,
I speak on behalf of the people.
You are a woman of the people. All right. With that said, let's go to our interview with Representative Angie Nixon.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm so honored today to have Representative Angie Nixon. She represents the 13th District in the state of Florida in the Florida House. And she's here to talk to us today. She is also running for a Florida Senate seat. And this is the seat that is currently being held by Ashley Moody. So honored to have Rep. Nixon on today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I know you're so busy with your campaign right now, but I, just wanted to reach out and to talk to you. And I just want to say, we were talking about this a little bit earlier before we were recording, but, a couple of years ago when I started getting involved with education advocacy, you were one of those people that was always had time to meet with volunteers and advocates, and has always been a huge supporter of public education. And so I really appreciate just the grace that you have shown over the years to me, and just for being so welcoming, and also for being such a fierce advocate for so many important things. But one of them super near and dear to my heart, which is public education. So I'm just
for sure.
thrilled for you to be on today.
I mean, when you have 5 kids, you have to be an advocate for education, Stephanie. Like, whoa.
Yeah. No, I know you see it. And I want to, I know today we want to get into a little bit about your experience in the Florida House, and then also obviously about your campaign. But I was wondering if we could just, start off, if you could just give a little bit of background about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. I have a Southern drawl. My people come from Southern Georgia. And so it depends. It gets thicker if I get around more Southern drawl folks. But I am a wife. I'm a mother of 5. I have a union organizing background. I worked for Florida Public Services Union as their higher education campaign director. I am currently a member still of Florida Public Services Union, which is a local of SEIU. And I really got involved based on education because I was bused across town at a very young age. My cousin was not. He went to a neighborhood school, and he wound up getting funneled into the school to prison pipeline, and then being shot and killed by a friend along the way after I came back from college. And so I just feel that if he would have went a similar path as me, that we may have been able to curtail some things and his life would have been saved. And so I know that the fact there's so many neighborhood schools that are under resourced, and it has a negative impact on children, students, and it funnels them sometimes into the school to prison pipeline, and that shouldn't be happening. All public schools should be fully resourced, and all students should have the same exact opportunities. But the way in which the Florida legislature is set up, that is not the case. And so that's why I am very vocal when it comes to education issues.
Can we actually take a moment? Thank you for sharing all that, Rep. Nixon. I think this is a phrase that I think people are familiar with, the school to prison pipeline. Can you take just a minute and explain what that means to people who don't know, who haven't heard that?
For sure. So my cousin wound up going to a bunch of neighborhood schools, and he got into some trouble in those neighborhood schools. And based on data, you can see that oftentimes Black students they get disciplined more than their other counterparts that are not Black. And what's interesting is that he wound up getting sent to an alternative school where he learned some alternative things, but he did some of the same things in high school that some of the kids in my high school would do, but they would get a slap on the wrist because I went to Stan College Preparatory High School, and we were the number one school in the nation at the time. And of course, you don't want your best and brightest to get disciplined because that will have negative press and all the things. And so I just feel that with the school to prison pipeline, when you don't have a school that's fully resourced, they don't have great educators, or they don't have educators because oftentimes they are stuck with, we will say, like long-term subs who may not have the education experience. They may not have extracurricular activities and just that type of thing. It's easier to have somewhat of an idle mind as a student, or if you are not making sure that your students, if they are living in poverty or have some stress, some factors at home, making sure there's wraparound resources for them, then, they could get in trouble and get funneled into the school to prison pipeline more easily because they don't have the things that they need to be successful. And that is exactly what happened to my cousin.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad you brought up, and I promise we'll talk about other things besides education today, but I'm so glad you brought up that piece about schools being under-resourced because, that when we live in a state that really doesn't prioritize funding public education, the result is you have some schools, even if schools were to get the same amount of money from the state and to the point they do, but some schools need more. They need a lot more. They need a lot more because of the community that they're in. And, some schools can make up some of the deficit because they live in areas where parents can fundraise and where parents can donate and where parents have the ability to go in and volunteer. And so, different schools need different things. And
and a lot of the more underfunded schools, a lot of those students need to see different things. They need people brought in so they feel as though, especially diverse folks or people that I'll say people that look like them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't, a lot of times these students, they don't know what they can become. And they may not see certain things. They may not know certain jobs exist. And so exposing the children to different opportunities is actually very beneficial. And unfortunately, some of these neighborhood schools within low income communities, they don't get that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for always being an advocate for all schools. It has not gone unnoticed. You have asked hard questions. You have really stood up and said what needs to be said. And so I appreciate that. So thank you.
Of course.
So I know you talked a little bit. So how did you sort of get involved in public service?
Yeah. So I got involved in public service based on just because of my cousin and wanting to get involved and really advocating. And so I wound up my last semester in college, I came and I interned at then City Councilwoman Mia Jones's office. And she actually resigned to run for the state house seat that I eventually would win. But before she won that seat, she resigned, and there were people who were running for her city council seat that I felt like were not speaking to young folks. And so I actually ran for that seat. I didn't win, but it opened up a lot of doors, and I really learned about campaigns and even more so just about advocacy. And I wind up getting pulled into movement work, and what movement work is like community organizing and really trying to build power within communities that oftentimes are voiceless. And so that is how I got involved. But it all really stems from just losing my cousin and wanting to make sure that people had the things that they needed so that they could be successful and so that they wouldn't fall short in their lives, like unfortunately is what happened to my cousin.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that speaks to just having an opportunity for young people to have internships where they can really see up front what it looks like to serve in public office. And then I love how you kind of took that organizing background, to kind of get that background to move on. So I think those are really important things that not everybody who runs for office has had those experiences, but I think it's really important to understanding who makes up your electorate and what people are looking for and really how you can serve the public in the best way. So I think it's such an amazing experience.
It's one of the reasons that I only run bills that may not be great for Republicans because they don't want to put them up and that type of stuff, right? But I only run bills that the people want. Like they come to me, they talk to me about it, or I go to them seeking out what their issues and concerns are. And then we try to put forth legislation that is actually transformative, not something that is just going to be easily passed in the legislature. It would be something that actually transforms the lives of Floridians here in the state.
Can you talk about some of the bills that you've pushed forward that you are most proud of?
Yeah. So oftentimes this state legislature, they don't like to allow Democrats to pass bills, particularly the ones that are more vocal.
Mm-hmm.
And so Senator Erin Graw actually pulled one of my bills while she was in the state house, which actually helped expand access to early childhood education. Look, there you go.
I love it. I love it.
And making sure that those child care providers were paid at a good, decent rate so that they could like make sure low income students had access to early childhood education, right? And so that is the one that is most near and dear to me. And what's interesting is like they pulled it and I didn't get credit because they put it into an omnibus bill, which is fine. I wanted to make sure that the policy got through, but I'll never forget one of the early learning coalition leaders from down south came up to me last year after one of the committee meetings, and he was like, Rep. Nixon, I just want to say thank you for your bill that you put forth. It's helping us. Da, da, da. I was like, well, they took my bill. He was like, it doesn't matter. He was like, but you put it forth and you put, you put the bug in their ear, and it's helpful and it's beneficial. And so I'm super excited about that. And like, this is the reason that I do what I do because of this little girl. And she keeps wanting to be on the podcast because apparently the TV isn't working. Remind her, Dad, babe, I'm on the podcast. And now the dog wants to get involved as well. Can you please? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you, honey.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's like, but I mean, I love it. I love it so much because, one of the things that I tell people is like, I want like normal people to run for office. Do you know what I mean? Like I want people who have like kids tugging on them and pulling on them. And, like I want someone to be like, I don't, this is what I love about you. And, people, just like normal people who run for office. And I'm not saying that, you are extraordinary in so many ways, but this is
I'm
life.
just a regular person. But what's interesting is though the first bill that I ever presented, even though I was unable to get it across the finish line, was a bill for EpiPen, and I had just had my baby like a few months prior. And so I brought my daughter, my oldest daughter, who's 18, to speak out in support of the bill because she has allergies and she has to carry an EpiPen everywhere she goes. And then I also had my daughter with me, and she was going to hold my daughter while I was presenting it. My daughter got really fussy, and this is before she had turned 1. And so I picked her up and I was literally presenting with her there. And so, yes, we definitely need everyday hardworking folks to be in the state legislature. Could you imagine and in Washington, D.C., could you imagine if we had regular everyday people running for office and actually in office? Things would look so much differently. We wouldn't have to worry about so much corruption and funneling of money to corporations and making the 1% even richer. We would actually see legislators that are trying to actually help hardworking folks get ahead, because right now people are getting screwed and they're working harder and harder and harder and nothing is changing. But you see the people at the top, they like Donald Trump and his son, their net worth keeps growing.
It's absolutely maddening. First of all, I just want to say thank you for working on advocacy for EpiPens as someone who stuck himself with an EpiPen just a couple of months ago.
Wow.
I'm fine. But I appreciate that advocacy. But one thing Steph and I actually were just having a discussion about last week was how much Florida state legislators are paid and how paying lawmakers such a small amount, like, extremely constricts the amount of normal folks who can run for office, because you have to, you have to either have, your partner has to have enough income, or you're a lawyer, or all these different ways in which we restrict the amount of regular working folks who can run for office and get elected.
Yeah, and what's interesting, so we get paid less than $30,000 a year, and we're up there a lot because we have committee weeks and we have 60 days of legislative session. And then, these past folks, we've been in special session after special session after special session. Guess what? We're headed into special session in a few weeks. And so it is not a lot of money. And what's interesting is they would rather it be $0. I'll be honest, because the soon-to-be Speaker of the House has ran multiple bills trying to get rid of the salaries for school board members. And I think that's very elitist because, as you stated, if hardworking folks want to serve, they won't be able to do that because they got to work and they would not have any income. And I think that's what they want. They want to keep just the elite folks working, or the ones who are not really as attached to what's happening in everybody's everyday life. And I know it sounds good saying, I'm a public servant, I'm not taking any salary or anything like that. But then it's like, I kind of want somebody who would need this salary and would make this a full-time job, actually. Yeah. And not someone that's going to get, not that they get wealthy off of it, but like that they have a living wage, a decent amount, not even just a living wage, like something that is a decent amount where they can even take their children to go on vacation, especially if they're advocating for folks in the state. That's only the right thing to do. But that $2,000 a month.
It's not a real.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, it's not a lot. Well, why don't we move to your campaign for Senate, because we only have a little bit of time left, and we're so grateful for your time. Can you just start us by talking about this decision to run for United States Senate here in Florida?
Yeah, so the decision is based off of the last things we've been talking about, just the fact that there's not everyday people, that many of them, in the United States Senate. Also knowing that I don't think we should allow Washington, D.C. to determine who folks' nominee should be either. I think we should make sure that we are putting people in office who are from the community. You don't necessarily have to be born here, but who are from the community and who've been working in the community and know the needs of the community and really care about the community. And it's not just them wanting to be in office. At the end of the day, if I really wouldn't want this job, but I don't feel like right now the folks that are there are doing what they need to do for the people of the state. And so I don't trust anybody right now, particularly anybody else that's in my Democratic primary, to actually fight for Floridians. I don't think the folks that are currently in there know what Floridians want and need. I don't think they've been talking to people as much as I've talked to over the last nearly 2 decades. Heck, even the last few months. I'd say even the last week, right? Like, I've literally been traveling across the state talking to people. And so I feel that change can't wait, because Floridians can't keep waiting for things to get better someday. And we literally have, like I stated before, people working hard with nothing to show for it. I have been traveling and I've seen 70, 80, 90-year-olds that are working at fast food restaurants, not because they want to, because they have to.
Yeah.
Because their Social Security checks are not covering all of their expenses. Because they are worried about possibly living on the street. And so it's so sad. And speaking with people who are about to have to refinance their home because the cost of their medical expenses exceeds what their health insurance is going to cover. And then a young man that I met in Gainesville who attends the University of Florida, who is a naturalized citizen, but he's still afraid to go to his girlfriend's apartment because he's worried about ICE detaining him and without due process and his family not knowing where he is. These are the things that people are dealing with here in our state and in our country, and it's only going to get worse. There's a lot of corruption that's happening and there's a lot of chaos that's happening, but the reason that that's happening is because it's profitable for folks like Trump and his campaign donors and his family and friends, like keeping us distracted with all this stuff that's going on, with him starting an potentially endless war right now. All my friends and family, their bank accounts are going down. Donald Trump's net worth is going up. His son, his net worth went up $50 million since he came back in office. I just don't understand why we are allowing that. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be this way, but we have to get out of the mindset that we got to vote for this person just because they're this well put together and they're like what folks would say is the epitome of what a politician should be. No, we need more diversity in the legislature all across the board on all different levels, from federal, from state to local. And if we did have more diversity of not just race and gender, but diversity of like economic status, a lot of things would be different. And so that's why I'm running. I ain't rich.
Us either.
I ain't rich. I'm not in poverty either, but I've been there, right? Like I know what it's like to have your car repossessed. You walking outside, and you're like, did somebody steal my car? And then you look, you get a phone call, you're like, hey, if you want to get your car back. Like I understand what that is like. And the fact that there are so many people that are living like that because their jobs won't pay them a living wage, or their job or that their health care is attached to whether or not a company is like, okay, I'm gonna keep you, or no, I'm gonna fire you. And so now their health care is gone. It shouldn't be that way. We should have things like universal health care in our country. They try to tell us that they don't have money for hardworking people, but they have nearly $2 billion a day to spend in a war over in Iran that is costing lives of service members, that is again causing our gas prices to go up. So we are a family of 7, and then we have a dog, and then I have a bunch of nieces and nephews that always come with us. So we have a van that we bought off Facebook Marketplace that is a 15-passenger van.
Amazing.
I put $83 in that gas tank, and that was for 3/4 of a tank. And I have another vehicle. We have what is it? It's a Honda Pilot, and that thing is taking like $60. Another vehicle we got off Facebook Marketplace. By the way, if you're in need of a vehicle, go to Facebook Marketplace first, because there are some private dealers, private sellers that are selling their vehicles. But it's like now we have to cut back on some of the food that we have because the money that we have to put in the gas tank to make sure we're still getting to and from work. And Lord, my husband owns a landscaping company. He gonna have to raise people's prices to cut their yards because the gas prices are ridiculous right now. And so that is going to hurt everyone, apparently, except defense contractors and people who are friends with Donald Trump and maybe some of his campaign donors. So, yeah, we need to send regular everyday folks to Washington, D.C. And that's why I'm running. Sorry, that's pretty long, but that's why I'm running.
No, I mean, that's I think such a perfect answer and so powerful. And I think some of the best people who are running, when you ask them why they're running, they're like, I actually don't really want this job, but something needs to be done. It's not that I want the title. Exactly. It's that, and I think the other thing about you is the fact that, it's not just that you kind of understand the issues that everyday people are facing and you are just like a normal everyday, person, but also that you are talking to people, that you are actually like making an effort to have these conversations and be accessible to people who voted for you, people who didn't vote for you, people who, are sharing their opinions and sharing their issues and sharing their concerns, and that you are, that you will make decisions that reflect their needs. And I think that is just so powerful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool getting to talk to a bunch of folks. I'm actually embarking on the Change Can't Wait Wage Diary series, where I am going to live off $7.25 an hour, which is the federal minimum wage, for 30 days. So we gonna see how this works out. I might be a lot skinnier because I won't have enough money to purchase food. So I just wanted to flag that. But we're gonna have that on all of our social media pages for the campaign to let folks know this is one of the reasons I want to go to Senate, to increase the federal minimum wage to actual living wage.
I love that. And kudos to you. That is a brave challenge and excited to watch it play out. Before we go, one thing I've been thinking so much about is obviously the importance of this election this year. And not just that we have to elect Democrats, but it really is, I think if you've watched things play out in DC, it is so important not that just we have Democrats, but who those Democrats are and whether they're willing to fight and actually be strategic. And so my question to you is, you become a United States Senator, our lips to God's ears, there is a Democratic president, and then we really have a moment of transformation. What, for you as a member of the United States Senate, what does that look like? Like, where do we need to go after this lawless, corrupt, just absolutely dangerous administration? Like, where do we have to go next?
I love this. So ready.
So Eddie. It's great that you asked that question.
Thank you.
So I definitely think that the House needs to impeach, and we need to vote to remove a ton of cabinet members. I think for sure the WWE lady who is running the Department of Education needs to go for sure.
Yes.
Right. And then even looking at what has Trump done? Has he violated the Constitution? Has he been derelict in his duties? I would say probably, yeah. So when they vote to impeach, I would vote to remove. And then medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
We need to go back, extend the ACA subsidies, demand companies reopen enrollment. They reopen it up, and then help drive down the premiums for health insurance in the marketplace. And then we need to work to reform the ACA. And then look at what we need to do to possibly actually push for Medicare for all. And I think we need to definitely close some of the big corporate tax loopholes. I don't think people should get tax breaks for buying a yacht or an airplane. I also don't think that they should be allowed to shelter some of their money. They need to pay their fair share. And another thing that I think needs to happen is that early childhood education needs to be capped at $10 a day. The reason it needs to be capped at $10 a day is because there's too many students that are starting kindergarten or first grade behind because their parents didn't have enough money to send them to an early child education facility to get the things that they needed. And y'all know, some of us parents, we ain't the best primary educator. We're like a good supplemental educator, because we saw what happened during COVID. We were struggling. I was struggling.
Oh, yes.
So y'all tell me what I need to work with my child on at home. Don't tell me like I gotta be like the one.
Yeah.
It's so hard to teach a stubborn, she's not stubborn, an assertive 5-year-old to be, I need some backup. No, I want to be the backup. You be the primary. Because, like, they don't listen to us at home. They listen to the educators more so. And then I will supplement. And that's what I do. And so, so we can make sure that these students are starting on time. We can also make sure that the parents have good mental health, because the kids are in school for a period of time, and that the parents are working, and that helps drive the economy as well. And so sometimes the parents stay home because it's cheaper to just keep the kids at home than to go get a job. And so that is something that I would definitely look at. And also really professionalizing early childhood education educators, right? We need to make sure that they're getting paid a living wage. These are the people that have our babies, our most precious gifts, and so to only pay them $14-15 an hour, that is wild to me. I want somebody who is enjoying being around children, not someone who's having to stress about whether or not they have enough money to take care of their bills to be around my child, because that stress is transferable to those babies. And so there is money that the feds could actually subsidize as it relates to early childhood education, and it won't even necessarily put child care providers out. We could just make sure that there are supplemental school readiness dollars and vouchers and that type of things, or things that trickle down to the state, and then that the child care providers can tap into. And so those are some of the things that I would push for.
I love it, and so important. I love the emphasis on early education, because if students, when they come in kindergarten, are ready and prepared, that can make such a huge difference for them later down the line, and ultimately actually saves money, ultimately helps the economy, because parents can be working, like you said, and there's just so much data to back that up. And so the fact that we don't invest in early education is honestly is bananas. I don't know any other word. It really makes absolutely no sense.
Stephanie, the reason they don't invest in it is because it's profitable not to. It's more profitable for them to say that, you know what they're saying now about traditional public schools. Oh, they're failing governmental schools. Well, that's because you under-resourced them. And that's because many of you all have companies that are charter school management companies, and you're passing legislation that would benefit you, or you are friends with owners of corporate schools, or you have stocks in private prisons, and if you don't have a good education, you probably gonna wind up in the school to prison pipeline, and then you're gonna wind up going to a for-profit prison, and you're gonna make these folks some money. And so that is what it all boils down to, is these folks are trying to figure out ways to get richer. And it's on the backs of hardworking folks. And it has to stop. And so it seems so simplistic the way in which I'm stating it, but that's because it is. They try to make it seem like it's so complex and it's so nuanced. It ain't. That is only to keep us confused. And so it does not have to be this way. These are easy fixes, but we have to send people to Washington, D.C. and to Tallahassee who have the will to do it.
So well said. Rep. Angie Nixon, thank you. I just want to end. There was a quote that I read from you that I think perfectly kind of summarizes what we've talked about today. And you said, I am not just running as a Democrat. I am running as someone who is people over party, people over politics, people over profit. And
Yes.
I love it. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Where can people go to find your campaign, to support you? Let the folks know.
For sure. Definitely need folks' time, talent, and a little bit of their treasure if possible. They can follow me on all social media, Angie4FL. So like Angie for Florida. And then as well, visit my website, angienixon.com. And I am going to be coming to I'm trying to see if I could pull this off of the back of my computer. I'm going to be coming to a city, a county, definitely a county near you. But anyways, when you see me, if you see me out and about, like you can stop me. I have these cool little stickers that I'm giving away for people that stop me randomly when they're like, where in the state is Angie Nixon? I was trying to make it sound like Carmen Sandiego, but whatever. So AngieNixon.com.
I got it.
We have stickers that we can give folks when they stop me, taking pictures, tagging, and I'm excited, y'all. I am excited about the opportunity to build a new vision for our country. And so thank you all for having me today.
You bet. Thank you for stepping up and running. It's been great having you.
Appreciate you. All right. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.